One of the final presentations today is Raman Ladutska, stopping serial killer, predicting the next strike.
In the flow of incoming malware activity every day. This is your detective for today. It's me, and my name is Raman. And here is our criminal, Drydex. Let's explore its core features. First of all, we have to say that this malware is very prevalent. It topped most wanted malware list in March 2020. It's very prolific. Its estimated damage is around $100 million. And it's operating on a long-term basis since 2014. Its main methods are stealing credentials for financial systems via web injects, redirects to phishing pages, and other methods. This information is utilized in fraudulent transactions or by using victims as money mules or anything else that can come to the evil minds behind the malware. So we have looked at a brief overview of the malware, and now let's take a step back into history and take a peek on how it started. And first of all, we have to get familiar with two masterminds behind the malware. One of them is Evgeny Bogachev, the author of Zeus Trojan. We will understand why we speak about Zeus in a presentation about Drydex in a few slides. And this is Maxim Yakubet, the alleged leader of Evil Corp. Evil Corp is a cyber crime group responsible for Drydex operations. These two guys are connected by one network of money laundering. So what is important about Zeus? It was developed with stealing credentials and taking control over victims' functions as its core features. It has infected more than 3.5 million machines worldwide, and it has caused more than 70 million damage worldwide. This is just few of affected companies throughout the course of operations of Zeus. And as you see, they are pretty high profile. Let's explore Zeus' timeline. It all started in 2005-2006 when Evgeny Bogachev created the first version of this malware. In 2009, Bogachev and Yakubets joined their efforts in monetizing the botnet. In 2010, Bugat malware appears. We will understand why it's important a little bit later. In May 2011, Zeus code went public, which gave birth to various branches and spin-offs of this malware. Everyone could just take the code, compile it, and if he or she had some technical skills, even create new malware out of Zeus. In September 2011, Bogachev created the updated version of Zeus called Game Over Zeus. In 2012, Game Over Zeus botnet started to distribute CryptoLocker ransomware. The impact was huge, and so FBI decided to take down Game Over Zeus and CryptoLocker botnets in June 2014. So these three last events kind of eliminate each other, and we are left with a very important point in this timeline is Bugat in 2010. We'll take a mental note of it and get back to it just in a few moments. So why was FBI interested in taking down the botnets? It's because this malware infected a lot of machines, more than 700,000 in total worldwide. Its total damage was more than $120 million. Law enforcement from 12 countries participated in the operation on taking down the botnets. Zeus has left a rich legacy after it, like many malware names, many samples, many versions, a lot of families, and a lot of references in different sources. It all can be explored at the site below. And we get back to the connection between Zeus and Drydex. One botnet was taken down. It's not a problem because another was on its way. And Bugat malware was being developed all this time. So let's get back to Drydex evolution. In June 2014, exactly at the time when the botnets of Game Over Zeus and CryptoLocker were taken down, Drydex appears on the stage as Bogat version 5. In early 2015, Drydex had already 9 active botnets. In August 2015, key admin of the most active botnets was arrested and extradited to the USA. It helped, but not for a long time, as in November 2015, Drydex botnets were back from being inactive after admin's detention. In late 2016, Drydex had already more than 30 active botnets and sub-botnets. In July 2017, ransomware BitPaymer was discovered with massive code similarities to Drydex. When we speak about Drydex botnet, we encounter a lot of similarities to Game Over Zeus. For example, web injects are used as JavaScript files. The malware is distributed via spam emails. Legit-like DLL is used to launch payload. The malware implements modular structure and using the same techniques inside. So we can conclude that the best practices were taken from Game Over Zeus and re-implemented in Drydex. Let's get back to modern days. What we have? We see that Evgeny Bogachev and Maxim Yakubets are in the FBI wanted lists, with a pretty solid reward promised for any information leading to the arrest and/or conviction of both. 3 million and 5 million correspondingly for Bogachev and Yakubets. However, the guys feel pretty happy, and we have evidence about Maxim Yakubets' luxury life. For example, here we see his fancy cars, bunch of money, luxury wedding, and so on. He's pretty happy of what he's doing right now and how it turned out to be with the help of Drydex. Drydex itself shows no signs of stopping. In 2019, Drydex had at least 14 active botnets, and then in 2020, in Q1, Drydex topped up the list of the most prevalent malware nowadays. We have seen and we have spoken about the huge damage caused by Drydex, and this wouldn't be possible without careful choice of victims. Let's explore these subjects in a little bit more details. So when we look at targets for the past decade, we see that they are very high profile. They are chosen among banks, credit card companies, or governmental agencies, among the others. The countries match the targets because these are the countries with developed and established economy, like USA, countries from the European Union, some countries from Middle East like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Oman. You may imagine how much money can be retrieved from these countries and malicious activity in these countries. When we get back to modern days and analyze requests in past few months, we see that Drydex focus has not shifted much. Countries may differ, but they are still the countries with established and developed economies like USA, Canada, Thailand, and so on and so forth. European Union is represented by Italy and France here. There is also Germany, which is in the other 4%. And you see that Israel, Japan, China, Taiwan, Thailand are also here. So we have already spoken about damage caused, but that's not all. According to the estimates of federal agencies and research companies, in 2015, more than $40 million damage was caused worldwide. In 2019, this number increased to 100 million. In 2020, in Q1, researchers got information about 3% of organizations that were affected worldwide by Drydex. Drydex is a very sophisticated malware, and the best practices from other spheres of life are used. For example, if someone is doing his job very well, it's very wise to ask someone who does another part of the job very well and to unite their efforts. And so does Drydex. It doesn't operate alone, and it uses help from other malware networks worldwide. Let's see. First of all, Drydex gave birth to various spin-offs and branches of ransomware. For example, BitPaymer in 2017, DoppelPaymer in 2019, and WastedLocker in 2020. We've seen many cases of code reusage in this ransomware in Drydex. You may ask why exactly ransomware? It's a global increasing trend. In 2020, in Q4, Checkpoint Research reported 50% increase in the daily average of ransomware attacks as compared to the first half of 2020. In this very year, in October, Software AG company suffered 20 million ransomware attack damage. So the bottom line is that using ransomware is very lucrative. An evil corp demands ransom up to $10 million. So if you have an established code base that's used in Drydex, it's a very wise decision to use the same code base in ransomware, which is very lucrative. So that's it. And when we spoke about the cooperation that is used by Drydex, we meant this, that different spam bots and exploit kits are used in spreading this malware via emails. And we have seen at least these 4 strong connections between different spam bots and exploit kits used throughout the history of Drydex. So far, we have taken an overview of different aspects of how malware is functioning and is operating, and it's time to gather some clues that will point exactly to this malware, to Drydex. So we start with getting evidence, and we use different sources. These ones are among them. And from these sources, we get hashes, URLs, domains, and IP addresses. Now we are interested in fingerprinting these indicators. From hashes, we get archives, malicious documents that are derived from archives or distributed by themselves. And we also get payloads. From the network indicators of URLs, domains, and IP addresses, we build some maps and understand some correlations between them. For example, we have seen a strong connection between these network indicators and Selectel, which is a company with data centers in Russia. Of course, used network domains and addresses are not limited to this Selectel company. However, we have seen it's very common for Drydex network indicators to be correlated with exactly this company. Now it's time to dissect the crime and understand the scheme on how Drydex is infecting machines. It all starts with spam email, which distributes malicious documents, and its delivery stage. The malicious documents we find VBA macro, which in turn launches PowerShell script to download some payload from the server. So effectively we split the whole operation into 3 parts: delivery stage, server part, and payload part. But it all starts with the delivery stage, and the key question: will a user click the document to be opened? Because if this is not the case, then the infection chain will not start. And we will explore and we will see that Drydex operators implement very clever techniques to lure users into clicking and open the documents. They fake messages from delivery companies and from high-profile companies like Microsoft, as seen here, to trick users into clicking. And if we remember the targets that are used by Drydex, like banks, credit card companies, and governmental agencies, we will see that this lures makes much sense. Because if someone receives a message from the delivery company, from high-profile company in the organization, which is working with money or with some very important spheres of life, employees have every reason to examine this document, and actually employees make a click to open. What happens next is the infection chain starts, because Actually, at the very first time when the document is seen in the wild, it usually has a very low detection ratio. And that's why it goes undetected by antivirus solutions or any protections that may be installed in the machines. And so it gives start to the whole infection chain. When we analyze what happens next, we encounter different stones on our way. Like, for example, here we see the junk strings, around 200 million strings to be precise, which are just spammed in the log. So you may imagine if we are using automated solutions to analyze the malicious activity, we will get this into logs. The log will be spammed and even overflowed, and even the next stage will not be reached. This can be the case. And it's not only one means of preventing the analysis. For example, we encounter also obfuscation. As you see here, this is the usual call to the function. Instead of a direct call, we see two hash values, which are then passed to the resolution function, and then the result is obtained and the function is called. If we examine the resolution function, we will understand that it looks like this. However, when we apply some magic and actually resolve these calls, we will get a more clear picture of what's going inside. We will be able to name functions and understand the logic flow of the malware. This is all worth the hassle because we can get to the configuration which is stored inside the malware. At first glance, it looks like a set of bytes. However, there is important information hidden inside. When we analyze the set of bytes, we get both identification number of servers stored inside, and the corresponding servers with their addresses and ports. So when we translate everything to the human readable format, we get something like this. Botnet ID number and IP addresses, which are the initial command and control servers, which are contacted by Drydex. We say initial because we have some evidence that actually this is just the first layer of Drydex communicating with the master server. And this information is very important for us in building our indicator base. So now it's time to unite our findings and prepare for the next strike. And we are going to build a crime map, just like movie detectives do. So our Drydex Crime Map will consist of the following. First, we examine the delivery stage and we extract hashes, images, macros from the documents. And we check the structure of malicious documents as well. Then we go to the server stage. From there we extract URLs and domains. When we speak about payloads, we're interested in hashes and IP addresses stored inside the configuration. So this is basically our Drydex Crime Map. However, we have to be careful not to false claim Drydex because there are some correlations between other prevalent botnets in some pieces that are used inside different stages. For example, in the delivery stage, we've seen some correlations in images used and macros used between Drydex and Emotet with Trickbot. The same is true for the payload stage, where the IP addresses are intersected with Emotet and Trickbot. However, there are some slight nuances that we can take into account and actually differ between different malware. So we have to be very careful about this. And when we count everything, we are ready to build our own solutions to detect Drydex. We start with malicious documents analyzer, which is a base of hashes, images, and macros that were used in Drydex previously, and has some signatures to detect these kinds of documents. We continue with Sandbox Emulator with the following features. Time forwarding, anti-analysis mitigations, YARA rules, and configuration extractor are all implemented inside this Sandbox Emulator. And these two solutions work in pair. And now we are ready to wait for the next strike. And this is what we got. We have seen a massive spikes of activity of Drydex in June and July of 2020. This is just two excerpts of what we have seen. It was very active summer. However, after some time, Drydex took pause. It was summer break and it was no activity for 1.5 months roughly. However, after this time, Drydex returned. In September 2020, we observed massive spike of its activity, which is continuing until now. What we learned from analyzing Drydex activity is that spawn distribution has a lifetime of less than 12 hours, so it's very crucial to detect it as early as possible. We can catch it at the first stage of execution, providing the effective protection and treating our mission as accomplished, and the case is solved. So, if to summarize, we are not predicting the strikes per se, but effectively we are just reacting as quickly as we can, so we can compare this reaction to prediction. Thank you so much for the attention.